It's time for the Las Vegas Sportsline. Brought to you by the Westgate Las Vegas, home of the world's largest race and sportsbook and the Super Contest.
Money won is twice as sweet as money earned.
Presented by WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, the Super Contest is already attracting what looks to be on pace for another record number of entries. Some great contests around town. The new Circa has phenomenal contests set up. The Ultimate Football Challenge and the Golden Nugget. Stations will have Last Man Standing again, which is a lot of fun. It's a good town to live in as far as the contests are concerned. I'm Dave Cokin. Marco DAngelo is here. It is our Superbook USA Tuesday edition of the Las Vegas Sportsline. We'll have Johnny Murray with us at Vegas Murray on Twitter in just a little bit. Marco, how are you, sir?
Good, Dave. It's been an interesting couple days for me, and back in the grind here, trying to get things out. I passed yesterday. It was a small schedule yesterday, so that was good. And a couple good games tonight I like on the card. Yeah,
we're going to have plenty of games to talk about tonight, and we will also find out how Marco fared at the World Series of Poker this weekend, where he was looking like, I'll just put it this way. I'll tip it off this way. He was looking very much plus even in the tournament, but minus even to make it back from a bathroom break. We'll tell you about that a little bit later. You'll have to stick around to find out. Meanwhile, let's talk a little hockey because the Blues got the win at home against the Bruins last night, and this is now a best-of-3 series.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. We talked about this series, Dave, when it started. Boston gets that dominating win in Game 1. We thought St. Louis is going to be on the ropes, and then they go into Boston for Game 2, where we thought, this is a team, the way they lost, how do they come back? And they answered the bell.
After falling behind early.
Yes, and then Game 3, now the momentum switches to home. You think, all right, here's St. Louis got a chance. Now they got home ice. What do? They give it back in Game 3, and then they rebound again in Game 4. This team, this is looking like we're going to have a 7-game series.
I saved some money last night because I thought going into the third period, the Bruins have withstood pretty much whatever the Blues are throwing at them. I assumed Chara might not be back, and he just sat on the bench in the third period, but I thought, you know what? I think the Bruins are going to get him here because, to me, they're still the team I'd rather have in a next goal win situation. But it was St. Louis that pushed across the game-winning goal, and they're a clutch team. I mean, this series could literally be over. Despite the fact the Blues dominated Game 2, they had to go to overtime to win it. And then last night, the fifth goal in the game was going to be the deciding goal, and they got that. So, give them points for being clutch. And thanks to that, they're right in this thing. If they can steal one game in Boston, they're going to win.
Absolutely. And, it comes down to, Dave, like you said, when it comes down to one goal, Boston's got more playmakers to make the goal. But I'll tell you what, when Binnington is on, this kid is amazing. And, we talk about it all the time. A goaltender can carry a team to a victory. And this team has shown their character that they were down twice with their backs against the wall and responded. And it's a cliche, Dave, but the longer this series goes, the more it favors St. Louis, I would agree with that, gaining confidence and everything else, and then the pressure begins to mount, for Boston. And Game 5 is going to be pivotal. We know that the history of all sports, Game 5s in a 2-2 series of best of 7 is the pivotal game that whoever wins Game 5 generally goes on to win that series. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
The one thing the Bruins have, at least at this point, is the knowledge that just looking at the goals for and goals against in this series, it's lopsided. And the Bruins have to be looking at that and saying, look, we're just flat out better than they are. We've murdered them twice. They snuck by us with what amounts to a one-goal win. There was an empty net goal, obviously, last night, and an overtime win. So from that standpoint, the Bruins, at least mentally, shouldn't be too worried. They have to, however, guard against getting frustrated in that this could be over. They could already be deciding who's got the cup for the next day because everybody gets it for a full day. And instead, they've got to win 2 out of 3.
Yeah. And, Dave, as you're saying that and saying, Boston has to have, the benefit of knowing, hey, they dominated this game and they dominated that game. What was going through my mind as you were saying that is I've seen this movie before, and unfortunately, it's a sore, spot with us here in Vegas. But that's the way the Knights were feeling after that one loss before they went back to San Jose. Hey, we dominated the game. We should have won that game.
59 shots on goal.
Yeah. We know how that ended up.
Yeah, although.
There was a big although.
There's a bit of an asterisk on that called a 5-minute major that was never a major. Anyway, we're going to talk more about this with John Murray, but the Warriors have lost another player. I know when you're going down the list of most important players in the Warriors, Looney's not at the top of the list. But you got to have depth.
Yeah.
And now they've lost another key reserve who plays meaningful minutes, and he is out for the rest of the series. I know they're the better team, but they're not operating at full strength, and the Raptors have to be looking at this and saying, look, we won. We could be up 2-0. This is a series.
It is definitely a series. I think that game, if Toronto goes to Golden State and can get home court back again, then we're looking at 7 in this series, in my opinion. It's going to be key for them. The guy I keep looking at, Iguodala, my God, the guy's playing on just absolute heart right now with the because he's nowhere near 100%, and he's given everything he's got for as long as he can do it in each game, and then we're still waiting to see, Durant.
He's not going to be out there for Game 3. I got a feeling he's not going to play at all.
I've said all along, if he didn't play in the first game, he wasn't going to be ready, and then in the fact. It's going to be how many weeks since he's played if he does come in and play a game. I mean, if he does play a game, Dave, and they bring him in for one of the games in Golden State somehow, just that rush of when he hits the floor for the crowd, we could see that little uptick. But I just don't think he's going to be 100% and he's going to be effective, and it's going to change the chemistry of the team of the way they're running the offense right now.
More on the NHL and NBA Finals with John Murray in just a little bit. Right now, time to look ahead to tonight's baseball action, and we will do that with our Tuesday MJ Christensen Diamonds 4 at 4.
1, 2, 3 into the 4.
Put them 4s up. Put the 4s up, I said. Do it right now.
Tonight's action is just around the bend, and the guys want to get your night off to a great start.
4.
It's the Las Vegas Sportsline's 4 at 4.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. Unbelievable.
The Giants and Mets are our lead game, and it's the Giants and Mets. Why are you talking about this one? Well, primarily because of the two pitchers involved. Madison Bumgarner on the mound for the Giants. Noah Syndergaard will take the mound for the Mets. It's a nowhere season for the Giants. They're not very good. But every time Madison Bumgarner takes the mound right now, the Giants are praying that he goes out there and looks like the old Madison Bumgarner, because the better he looks, the more they're going to get for him when they decide to deal him at the deadline, which seems to me to be an inevitability at this point.
Yeah, and Dave, boy, if we could wind the clock back a little bit with these two guys, the total on tonight's game is 7. This would have been easily a 6.5.
Maybe a 6.
Yeah, in their prime. And Baumgartner, in his career, has dominated the Mets. He's 7-0 in 8 career starts with an ERA of 1.42 and a WHIP of 0.91. Now, this is not the same Madison Baumgartner that we've seen in the past.
No.
He's not overpowering the pitcher, but he's learned how to use what he's got left, and he's pitching well this year.
He's been getting better, which indicates he's not a big thrower anymore, but he can still pitch.
Absolutely. And on the flip side, you got Syndergaard, his 6 career starts. He's 3-2 against the Giants, ERA 2.38. So history-wise, you would think this is going to be a low-scoring game, but I just can't pull the trigger that way. I'm going to look to the over on the 7 here, because both of these guys, here's the problem. They're not going 7 or 8 innings, okay?
Yep.
And I'm not a big fan of either bullpen. I'm not a fan of bullpens in general this year, to be honest with you, Dave. I've seen too many leads blown. But you look at the Mets. After a loss by 4 runs or more this season, they're 10-1 to the over in the next game. I'm going to go ahead and lean to the over. On the game itself, I'm not involved, but I guess if you put the gun to my head, I would look at the Giants and Baumgartner, but I'm just not thrilled.
The best top-to-bottom divisional race right now is the NL Central. Only 6.5 games between first and last place in the division. We can malign the Pirates as much as we want, and they might indeed completely fall out of it at some point. But they're in it right now. The Reds, despite the fact that they're at the bottom of the division, they're certainly in it. Cardinals, Brewers, Cubs, we knew they were going to be good going in. Cardinals, after an awful May, are now building some early momentum in June. They'll have the home field advantage tonight as they take on the Reds. Luis Castillo going for the Reds. He's kind of regressed a little bit of late, but he's a guy who's capable of going out there and shutting down any opposing lineup. Makes the Reds a dangerous dog.
Castillo is the best thing on the Reds, pitching-wise. He's been their most consistent pitcher, Dave. 10 of his 12 starts, he's given up 2 runs or less. Now, you said lately, his last 3 starts, his ERA is 5.40, a whip of 1.57.
His command has been a little bit off in his last few starts.
But it really came to that one start. He had that one start, 2 back that really skewed those numbers. I'm looking for him to bounce back. Cabrera goes for St. Louis. And he was not good in his debut. A lot of guys...
he got hurt by his defense, too. I mean, he really did. They made a really bad play behind him. I thought he looked okay in his first start. He's going to have control problems, though. This has been the book on Genesis Cabrera, or I might be mispronouncing it. I'm pronouncing it like the biblical thing.
That's the way I thought it was, but I kind of just skipped
over. I don't know.
I just skipped over his first name there.
Anyway, it's Cabrera. He's a lefty. He's got a lot of upside, but he might not be ready yet.
And this is a spot, though, that St. Louis is good in. When they've been at home this season, Dave, and they've been from a plus 125 to a minus 125, they're 11-2 for the season in this spot. But you got Cincy as a road favorite. To me, it's like they're begging you to take St. Louis at home here. They're not playing their best baseball right now. I'm going to give the Reds a shot because it's Castillo. But I'll tell you where I would rather do this. Do it as a first 5-inning wager with Cincinnati. Pitcher to pitcher, I think Castillo is more established, and I feel more confident with him right now, and that's where I'm at, first 5.
Watching the Phillies and Padres last night, Aaron Nola's been showing signs lately of getting back to being Aaron Nola. After a rocky start to the season, he's been good lately, and he got off to a good start last night against the Padres, who are not noted for being an explosive offensive team. And then all of a sudden, here comes San Diego. Franmil Reyes got it started. Manny Machado caps it off with a grand slam. Nola gets blown up. Great win for the Padres, who, coming off a bad weekend against the Marlins, needed the win. It's funny, I think it was in the post-game interview, I'm watching Manny Machado, and he's talking about, it's a funny game. Because he said, hey, we didn't play well against Miami. And Philadelphia's they're a good team. Their first-place team comes in, and Padres knock them off and blow them out in the process. Now they send the sheriff to the mound tonight. Yeah. And Chris Paddock, who's come back to earth a little bit lately, but boy, he's got good stuff, and he's a tough guy to go against.
Yeah, I think that last start, Dave, I think maybe the Big Apple got to him a little bit. I don't care who you are, Dave. When you're a kid, and we've all done it. We've played, baseball in the backyard or in the streets, whatever. You're always sitting there saying, it's bottom of the ninth, I'm on the mound. And what ballpark do you pick? In your mental game. It's, we're pitching at Yankee Stadium. Whether you're a Yankee fan or not, there's certain stadiums that have that mystique. And for a guy to go pitch there the first time, I think the moment might have got a little bit too big for him because he's had some big moments.
And he was against a big-name opponent in Paxton.
Right. And then a couple weeks earlier than that, he went again, or a couple starts earlier, he had the big showdown with Clayton Kershaw, too. So the kid's had a lot of big games recently. So I'm going to give him a pass. But I look at Philadelphia, Dave. Right now, they're not playing good baseball. Yeah, it was
I'm going to go on a mini rant in a second, by the way, about something that happened in the very first inning last night.
The Dodger series, you could say, okay, hey, they're playing the Dodgers. The Dodgers are playing great baseball. But then you step down and you play San Diego. You have a bad game last night. I'm going to go ahead and Eckhoff. I can't back him right now. Dave, it's the long ball that's killed him. Do you realize in his last 14 1/3 innings pitched, how many home runs do you think he's given up?
12. No, I knew it now.
Actually, you're not that far off.
No, he's had some troubles.
How about 8?
That's a lot.
8 dingers in 14 1/3 innings.
Not good.
Okay? Yeah. Now, not that San Diego's going to be launching balls all over the place like that, but that's not a good sign. I'm going to go the sheriff, Paddock, first 5.
Andrew McCutchen will not be in the lineup for the Phillies, and he's going to be out for a while.
He's been playing well this year.
It's all Gene Segura's fault. If you watch the game last night, this drives me nuts. I have never, not once, ever been anti-players making a lot of money. Get as much as you can get. But for crying out loud, just do